And your sound is off.
Okay.
Yep, good.
Leslie and Gail Kaplan in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Siddell, Irving and Paul Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gidler, Avram Meir Ben Shimon and Martha Gidler, Cherna Bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Friends of Nina Moinester, Nechama Asna Bat Yitzchak. A Month of Learning by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbas Meir Halevi, Boca Babes, in memory of their dear friends Susan Wertman, Chaya Sarah Bat Alta Yosef, Chaim and Phyllis Reese, in memory of his father, Mordechai Ben Yom Tov Lipa, myself and my wife and friends, in memory of Karen's mother, Nechama Bat Moshe HaKohen, Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his father, Meir Ben Yaakov, Marcia Federbush, in memory of her father, Menachem Mendel Ben Shlomo, Ruvain and Susan Podolsky, in memory of his mother, Fredel Bashraga Feivel, Phyllis and Chaim Reese, in memory of her father, Pinchas Ben Avraham. A Week of Learning by Steve and Edie Vigdor, in memory of his mother, Mendel Bas Rav Shmuel. On Shabbos was a day of learning plus Torah Fund by Matthew and Charlie Silverman, in memory of his father, Tzvi Hirsch Ben Elchanan Leib. Also on Shabbos was a day of learning by Rabbi Yigal and Marilyn Kornblum, in memory of his mother, Bela Bas Tzvi Chaim, and her mother, Rachel Bas Harav Shalom Yonatan Halevi. Okay, misspelled. Okay. Okay, today is a day of learning also by Eliza Paleyev, in memory of her mother, Tzipora Chana Bas Tzvi Hershlev. May the Shamas have an Aliyah, Karen Kirafia, Veldi Yeshiva Shem Latzliah, and L'chol B'nai Israel, a good Gebenshtia. Is that all right? Yeah, okay. All right. So I'm going to give just a short intro to Tani. Okay, remember the other day we had a Gemara that indicated that they sounded the shofar on fast days. Okay, and there'll be a discussion of that forthwith at some point. Okay, and a discussion, of course, of the whole issue of fast days, because fast days were commonly called when there was a lack of rain. How do you know when it's supposed to rain? Right? There are certain seasons. We know Israel generally is considered to have two seasons. One winter, which is the rainy season, one summer, the dry season. So our discussion in the Gemara today is going to deal with the difference, I'm going to suggest, between requesting rain and mentioning rain as part of the davening. Okay? And of course, we're referring clearly to primarily the Shmona Esrei. What? Right. Okay, we're going to get to that in a second. Okay, so we're going to get to that. Michael was suggesting particularly where those statements are going to be said, and the Gemara wants us to look at that momentarily. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So as we start on Amud Aleph, Amud Beis, actually, okay, two main themes are going to come up in this parak: the proper dates for rainfall and the declaration of fast days. Okay. Meimatai maskrim gvurot geshamim, asks the Mishnah. Okay, at what point do we include a reference? I'm going to put it that way. Okay, to the gvurot geshamim. And we'll explain that as we go into the Gemara. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, says Rabbi Eliezer, what? Miyom Tov Rishon Shel Chag, from the first day of Chag, which is Sukkot. Okay. Rabbi Yoshua Omer, he disagrees. Miyom Tov Acharon Shel Chag, from the last day of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres. Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua, says Rabbi Yoshua, Ho'il ve'ein hagshamim ela siman klala b'chag, since we understand that raining on the Sukkot holiday is considered bad news, bad tidings. Okay, all right. Lama hu maskir, why does he make reference to it? Right. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer responds, Afani lo amarti lish'ol elu lahaskir. I didn't say to request, I'm going to use that word for rain, but I said lahaskir, to make reference to it. Right? Meshiv haruach umarid hagashem. And the reference would be to say he brings the wind, all right, and causes the rain to fall. Okay? Now, ba'onato, in its appropriate time. Okay? And so therefore that's going to be a important catchphrase. How do we know when it's the appropriate time? Okay. Amarlo, he said to him, Imkain, la'olam yehei maskir. If that's the case, we should say it on an ongoing basis. If we're acknowledging it as one of the aspects of Hashem's, I use the word powers for the moment, but we could use other translations as well, right? Ein shoalim et geshamim ela samuch l'gshamim. If that's the case, we should not request rainfall unless it's close to the season or the time of rainfall. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he says, ha'over lefnei ateva b'yom tov ha'acharon shel chag, one who goes to become the shliach tzibur, right? Here on Yom Tov, when it is the last day of Sukkot, namely Shmini Atzeres, right? Ha'acharon maskir, I'm going to use the phrase Baal Musaf, right? Shliach Tzibur from Musaf does recite it, right? Harishon no maskir, but the first one does not say it, right? Shachris guy, right? B'yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach, if we flip it and go to Pesach, right? On the first day of Pesach, Harishon maskir, the Baal Shacharis does say it, okay, refers to it. Ha'acharon no maskir, and the Mishnah ends, but the one who handles Musaf does not make reference to it. Okay. Now, our Gemara continues and picks up on this issue. Tana, we have a Braita, and a Tana who taught as follows. Heichakai de katani mematai. Where does he, so to speak, stand? In other words, how is it that he established by asking the question when we recite it? Tana hatam kai. The Tana, or the Braita, stands there. Namely, it bases itself elsewhere on a Mishnah in Brachot. Okay, that's the point. Dikatani, where it's taught, Maskirin Gvurot Geshamim B'tchiyat Hametim, that we make reference to the causing of rainfall in the second blessing of the Amida. Right? The blessing, power of rain is a good phrase too. Okay? All right, in that second blessing. All right? Vishoalin bebirkat hashanim. But we request the rain in a different blessing of the Amida, namely Birkas Hashanim. Okay? V'havdalah b'chonein adat. And we make Havdalah, the distinction between Shabbos and Chol or Yom Tov and Chol, whatever, okay, in the blessing of Chonein Hadat, the first of the intermediate blessings, Uktani. And we learned also, okay, where it says, Meimatai maskirin gvurot kshamim, and therefore that's what leads him to teach at what point do we include a reference to the power of the rainfall? So the Gemara says as follows. Excuse me. V'litnei hatam. So let him teach it there, namely back in brachot. Why didn't it teach it there? All right. Ma'ishna. Okay. The shavke ad hacha. What is the reason? We'll say that he left it for here. Okay. Ella rather. Tana me Rosh Hashanah sali. So we're going to say, no, maybe that Tana learned it and wanted to discuss starting from the Rosh Hashanah, from the beginning of the year. And that's why he went from there.
No, there is another.
Oh, right.
In Gemara Rosh Hashanah, which is closer to time.
Right. So maybe he wants to take it from that source instead of the source in Brachot, the source in Rosh Hashanah. Okay. Ditznan. What do we have there? A Mishnah. Ubechag nidunin al hamayim. That we say in Rosh Hashanah that on that holiday, okay, there's judgment regarding water. Va'ide ditana ubechag nidunim al hamayim. And since he teaches there that on Chag, okay, that's when we have judgment regarding the water. Tana. Okay, that therefore he also teaches at what point do we recall or make reference to, right? Right? At what point do we make reference to this power of rain?
Reference to when we appear, which is right next to Rosh Hashanah.
Well, we'll see. Okay.
A closer reference.
Right, it's another reference. And because it's closer, that's what. Velitne, so let's say he should teach it this way. Okay, when he asks the question, at what point is it that we make reference to the rainfall? Okay, so now I have another problem. My gvurot geshamim. Why did he use the lashon, the language of gvurot geshamim? Okay, wouldn't it have been? I'm jumping ahead just for a minute. Wouldn't it have been a sufficient that he had said my right? Meimatai geshamim. Okay, Amar Rabbi Yochanan mipnei sheyordin bigvura. Why did he use that language? Suggests Rabbi Yochanan. Because the rain can come down with power, with strength of Hashem. Okay, that's also, I'm going to add another little different shot. Okay, that it's also, since that blessing, okay, refers to various other aspects of Hashem's powers. Okay, there's one other, and we're going to get to that really later in the Gemara. Connect back to it. Shnema, as it says, Oseg dolot ad ein cheker v'niflaot ad ein mispar. Okay, a pasuk from Eov, okay, citing that Hashem does all these great things without comprehension, without our total understanding, v'niflaot, and miracles, wonders, innumerably. Uktiv, and elsewhere it's also written in Eov, anotein matar al pnei eretz v'sholeach mayam al pnei chutza. So again, we see that reference to, okay, rainfall, matar on the earth, right, and mayam. Now, what happens? Mayim mashma. What do we say is the explanation? How do we understand this? Amar Rabba Bar Shila. He said as follows. What can we do? Atya cheker cheker mebriato shalom. He wants to make a gezerah shava from the word cheker. Since we just had in the pasuk, right, from Eov, oseg dolot ad ein cheker v'niflaot ad ein mispar. That's one example. And he wants to use it with another pasuk that's associated with the creation in Bereshis, right? Mibriato shalom. Why? Kativ hacha. Here, namely, that's our Eov pasuk. Oseg dolot ad ein cheker, uktiv hatam, and it's written elsewhere in regards to creation by Yeshayahu. Halo yadata im lo shamata. Okay, olam Hashem borek tzot haaretz, lo yiaf v'lo yiga, ein cheker letfunato. Okay, with reference to how the world was created. Uktiv, and it's also written in Tehillim. Mechin harim b'kocho, ne'azor b'gevura. Okay, so another parallel, okay, where we talk about Hashem's gevura. Uminalam the betfila, and how do we know, okay, that this reference to Shamim, all right, Mashiv Haruach Marita Gashin. How do we know that it is needed to be included in the Amidah? Okay, the Tanya, okay, as taught elsewhere. The Ahava et Hashem Elohechem u'avdo b'chol levavchem. Okay, we have that phrase in Dvarim, to love Hashem, your God, and to worship. I'm going to use, okay, serve him, okay, with your heart. Ezohi avodah shehi balev. How do we know what it means when it says worship by means of the heart, or heartfelt worship? Havei omer zot tefillah, and that is a famous quotation. Okay, that that is worship. Okay. Uktiv batre, and it's written after that. V'natati matar artzachem beito yoreh umalkosh. And it says, and he gives the matar on your land, okay, in its proper time. And then it spells out two forms of rain, yoreh, the early rain, and malkosh, the later rain. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, now, new piece from the Gemara, but it connects with it in terms of what we were saying. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan says, Shalosh maftechot biyado shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom nimsru biyad shaliach. That there were three keys, okay? But here there were three, I'm going to use a little different pshat, three miraculous aspects of life that Hashem controls on his own, as opposed to allowing his shlichim, perhaps his malachim, to carry them out. Okay? Ve'eluhein, and they are number one, mafteach shel shamim, his control of nature, of rain. Number two, mafteach shel chaya, the key to birth, u'mafteach shel tchiat hametim, and the key, the miracle of resurrection. Okay, Maftech Shag Shamim, regarding the key, the miracle of rainfall, Dichtiv, right? Iftach Hashem Lecha et Otzro Hato, right? Et Hashemayim Latet Matar Artzecha Beito. That Hashem opens his treasure house, his good treasure house of the good that from heaven, and allows the matar, okay, to fall right on the earth, and the appropriate time. In other words, that implying there are times when rain is good, there are times that rain is not so good. Maftech, okay, and remember, always we're talking about the environmental status of the land of Israel, okay, not Bavel, right? Because Bavel, remember, they had rivers, so they could rely on irrigation. Whereas in Eretz Yisrael, they really had to rely on rainfall to provide water, not only for irrigation of crops, but for other purposes as well. Okay, now going back, Maftech Shel Chaya, the key, the implication of birth, Minayin Dichtiv, why? Vayiskor Elohim et Rachel, that Hashem remembered Rachel, Vayishma Eleha, as we go to the next Amud, Elohim Vayiftach et Rachma, and he remembered and opened her womb. Okay, and the third, okay, Maftech Shel Tchiat HaMeitim, the key to resurrection, Minayin, Dichtiv and Yechezkel, Vidatem, Ki Ani Hashem, v'pitchi et kivrotechem. Okay, that know that I am the Lord as I open up your graves. Okay, if I remember correctly, that's from the Valley of the Dry Bones chapter in 37 of Ezekiel. Oh, yeah, I know the song too. But Ma'arava in the West. Okay, now we understand why I made that difference between what was the Eretz Yisrael and, well, right? The Ma'arava, Amre, they say also, Af Maftech Shel Parnasa. Okay, the key to one's well-being, financial well-being. Dichtiv, as written in Tehillim, Potech et Yadecha, Mospil Chai Ratzon. Right? Okay, so that case, the Gomer. What? That's what we're going to see. Baruch Shekivanta. That's what we're going to get to in the Gemara. The Rabbi Yochanan says, "Mai tama loka chashiv laha." What is the reason? Okay, that in other words, if they only refer to that in Eretz Yisrael, why didn't they refer to that in Bavel? Okay, as one of the make it four. Amarlach kishamim hainu parnasa. Okay, that the rainfall in Eretz Yisrael was an important contingent aspect to Parnasa. And
They said it, they didn't combine them.
They didn't
combined
combine
them
it,
in
right.
Babel. In Israel,
They
made
did.
two.
Okay, so the was in Israel, because it was more of a perhaps an agricultural society, even in the time of Chazal, okay, as opposed to Bavel. Okay, we go to a new piece, back from our Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, he says, Miyom Tov Harishon Shel Chag. Okay, from the first day of Sukkot. Ibayilahu. So he was asked the following. Rabbi Eliezer, Mehecha Gamirla. From where did Rabbi Eliezer learn that it should be first day of Sukkot? Milulav Gamarla. It's possible he could have learned it from Lulav, Besas of Lulav, Omi Nisuchamayim Gamarla. Or did he learn it from the requirement to do the water libation? So we're going to explore each of those items as possible bases for Rabbi Eliezer's approach for first day. Right? Milulav Gamarla, if we say that he learned it from the idea of the lulav, from the requirement, Ma lulav biyom, af haskara biyom. The same way a lulav is taken during the day, okay? So likewise, the mentioning, okay? Likewise, we to start mentioning during the day. O Dilma, or perhaps minusachamayim gamarla, or perhaps he learned it from the water libation, and namely, man nisuchamayim mi orta, whereas nisuchamayim, the water libation occurred the first night. Okay, da amar mar, as was said in the pasuk, umin chatam v'niskehem afilu balayla. Okay, that it could be done even at night. Af haskara me orta. So then it would imply that the mention must begin starting at nightfall, the previous occasion. So either it's done, so to speak, the first start of Sukkot that night, or during the day. Okay? Tashma. But listen to the following Braita, says the Gemara. Da'amar Rebbe Abahu, said by Rebbe Abahu, Lo lamda Rebbe Eliezer elami lulav. He claims, Rebbe Abahu, that Rebbe Eliezer had to have learned it from the basis of lulav. Ikeda Amre. But there are others who say, Rebbe Abahu Gamra Gamirla, that Rebbe Abahu says he learned it from the Sorah. Okay? Furthermore, the Ikeda Amre, and others still say, Matnita Shemiele, that he learned it from a Braita. So the Gemara asks, Mai hi detanya. So if you're going to claim that he learned it from a Braita, okay, what was it that he learned from this Braita? Meimatai maskirin al hagshamim. At what point do we make reference to the water, to rainfall? Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Misha'at Nitilat Lulav. From the time, says Rabbi Eliezer, that one I'm going to say first takes up, picks up to shake the lulav.
And that's usually after Shacharis.
Okay, during the day, right? Rabbi Yoshua Omer, Misha'at Hanachato. Rabbi Yoshua says, no, from the time that we put down the lulav, we stop breaking it, namely from the conclusion of Sukkot. That would be the point. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. And now come back. Says Rabbi Eliezer, Ho'il va'arba'at minin halalu einan ba'in ela liratzot al hamoyim. Since we say that the four varieties, okay, that are the arba minim, okay, are basically come to, Koren translated it as to appease. But what does Art Scroll have? I'm sure it has a different translation. Liratzot et hamay al hamayim. Okay, they give a different explanation. What?
Since the four species serve only to entreat God
And treat God.
concerning water.
Okay, that's interesting. There's a real difference in that translation there.
And then the rationale, because they can't grow
Right,
without.
well, right.
So we're
Okay,
reminding
so
God
that's why Koren, to appease, I'm gonna just make a note here myself. Entreat, I think actually probably is a little, okay. In any case, ukashem sha'ar b'minin halalu iyafshar behen below mine. And since these four items, right, the four varieties cannot exist without water. All right, below mine, kach iyafshar le'olam below mayim. So likewise, the world cannot exist without water. Amar la Rabbi Yoshua. And Rabbi Yoshua responds and says, V'alog shamim b'chag eino ela siman klala. But don't we say elsewhere that rainfall during the holiday of Sukkot is a klala? It's a bad omen. It's a bad sign. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer, who responds back, Afani lo amarti l'sh'ol. I did not say to request the rain then at the beginning of Sukkot, ela lahaskir, but simply to make mention of it. Ukashem shetchiat hametim maskir kol hashana kula veina ela bizmana, and the same way that resurrection of the dead is mentioned throughout the entire year, but it doesn't. But it's only going to occur at its appropriate time. Okay, kach maskirim gvurot gshamim kol hashana ve'inan ela bizmanan. So likewise, we're able to mention, okay, the power of rainfall throughout the year, but it should only be coming at its appropriate time. Okay, lafichach, says the Gemara, im ba lahaskir kol hashana kula maskir. Okay, therefore, if it seems appropriate to mention it throughout the year, okay, one can mention it. Okay, Rebbe Omer. However, Rebbe is going to try to clarify the statement. It says Rebbe, Omer ani misha'a shemafsik l'she'ela kach mafsik lahaskara. At the time we stop requesting, right? That's the time we stop mentioning.
Which is the first day of Sukkot.
First.
Okay, so
Right. Okay, so that's the point. Now, notice as we continue, Gemara is going to come up now with the fact that other Chachamim are going to suggest alternative times, alternative dates. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera Omer, B'sheni b'chag humaskir. That on the second day of Sukkot is when you start mentioning it. Rabbi Akiva Omer, he says, B'shishi b'chag humaskir. On the sixth day of Sukkot is when we start mentioning it. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Yoshua Omer, it says as follows, Ha'over lefnei ha'teva b'yom tov ha'acharon shel chag, right? One who becomes the shliach tzibor on the last day of Sukkot, right? Shmini Atzeret, right? Ha'acharon maskir. Okay, the Bal Shachris. I'm sorry, Bal Musaf does include it. Harishon ain't no maskir, but the Bal Shachris does not mention it. Biyom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, on the first day of Pesach, right? Harishon maskir, the Bal Shachris mentions it, right? Ha'acharon ain't no maskir, and the Baal Musaf does not make mention of it. So the Gemara says, Shapir Ka'amarle Rabbi Eliezer the Rabbi Yeshua. Well said on behalf of Rabbi Eliezer to Rabbi Yeshua. In other words, he gave him a good answer. However, Rabbi Yeshua is not done with this discussion and responds. Amar lecha Rabbi Yeshua, he would say, Bishlem et chiyat hametim maskir. Okay, it's viable, appropriate, acceptable, however we want to turn it. That regarding resurrection we mentioned, the kuli yoma zamanehu, that anytime, any day, it's possible that residue will be the time. Elik shamin, but rather for rain, ko emat da'atyan zmanayhu hi. But rather, if I want to ask about the coming and the bringing of rain, isn't it more appropriate that it be done in its appropriate time? Okay, vahatnan, and then aren't we also taught in the Mishnah? Yatsa Nisan Yordug Shamim Siman Klalahim. Okay, that if it's a situation, says the Mishnah, that the Nisan comes and the rains fall, it is a terrible time. Shneamar, why? Because it says elsewhere, Halok Tzir Chitim Hayom Vagomer. Okay, that is a time of the harvest, and you don't want rains during harvest. It ruins the crops. Exactly, it's no good. Now, a new piece. As we come back to the fact that we said other Chachamim suggested other times, right? Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera Omer, B'sheni b'chag hu maskir. Again, he said, second day of Sukkot, start mentioning it. My Tama de Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, what was his reasoning? The Tanya, he taught the following Braita. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera Omer, he says, Ne'emar b'sheni. It's said on the second day, okay? V'niskehem, okay? In other words, the reading, okay? Okay, we're saying that day's reading refers in plural to the word multiple niskehem, multiple libations. I'll use that phrase.
It has the extra map.
Right, we'll get to it in a second. V'ne'emar b'shishi, and then it says on the sixth day, v'nisacheha, which is also in the plural, but we're going to drop the hay for the moment. Okay? V'ne'emar b'shvi'i, and then it's said in the seventh day, k'mishpatam, also in the plural with an extra mem. So now I have an extra mem from niskehem. I have the yud telling me it's plural in nisacheha, and I have an extra mem for kamishpatam. Hare mem yud mem, right? What does that spell? Hare kan mayim. Okay, so that's his drasha. Mikan remez l'nisuchamayim min haTorah. So here we have a hint. Okay, remember pshat, remez, drash, v'sod, 4 levels of interpretation. So here's allegory, remez. Okay, let's go on now. Umay shna b'sheni dinakat. And why is it, I'm going to say dafka, unique, particular, such string that he chose the second? Dechi ramize laho bikra, that he's saying that it was suggested, okay, in that pasuk. B'sheni hu deramizi, okay, that it's the second day, therefore it's suggested. Right, beginning of the Remez. So that's why he chose and said the second day of Chag would be the time to recite it, right? Hilkach b'sheni mad kirinan, and therefore on the second day of Chag is when we mention. Okay, now let's get to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva Omer, He says, Bashishi b'chag hu maskir. On the 6th day of the holiday. Okay, he mentions it. Okay, Shnei Amar, why? Bashishi ne'un nisacheha. And it says on the 6th day, and its libations. Ubashen sheni nisuchin hakatuv medaber. Ubashnei nisuchin, I'm sorry. And with regards to multiple, two libations is what the text is talking about. Echad nisuch hamayim, ve'echad nisuch hayayin. One is the water libation, one is the wine libation. But the Gemara is going to challenge this. Ve'ema travaihu dechamra. But I would say that both of them really deal, okay, they're both really with wine. Savar like Rabbi Yehuda ben Batera. That seems to say then that he's of the same opinion as Rabbi ben Batera. The Amar Ramize Maya. That here too, he's suggesting that it suggests regards to water. We'll just go over very briefly. Isavala Rabbi Yehuda ben Batera. So the Gemara says, if he holds to the same opinion as Rabbi ben Yehuda ben Batera, Nema Kavate, let him say according to him. Right? Let him say that. Kasava Rabbi Akiva. But Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion, Kikativ Nisuch Yetera. Okay, when it says that there's that additional libation, Bishishihu Dichtiv, that it's written in regards to the 6th day. And that's where we'll stop for today. Okay? All right. And we'll pick up tomorrow a little bit more with that. I don't know, long amudim, guys. All right? Everybody stay well and have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.